Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Jacob Payton here. Today I'm doing another book haul. This isn't as big as the last book haul I did, so don't worry about that. This is just some stuff I got pretty recently and I wanted to show you guys because some of it was pretty cool. A lot of things are open back up in my area, so I am able to go like thrifting and do a lot of stuff like that again, so I am finding some really cool stuff out in the wild. And I know there wasn't any videos posted the last 2 weeks. I am sorry about that. I started a new job, so I fell a bit behind. So I am going to try to pre-record a lot more videos so I can stay a little more consistent. So please bear with me. These are growing pains. But yeah, let's jump straight into this. The first three books I wanted to show you guys were these really cool classic editions of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which I am holding them all out of order, which is cool. But yeah, here is a couple different ones. Look at the covers. I think these are a book club edition from, if I remember, it's like, or maybe it's not. These are Ballantine Books Dolphin editions. I'm not sure what that means. And there's an inscription in this one from 1969. Let's see if I can figure out when this was published. 1965. So yeah, these are some really cool, just classic covers. I like the fact that if you look at these, it really doesn't show much about, you know, the book in the way that we expect fantasy covers to do now. I mean, a lot of it's kind of abstract. There is a spider in the two towers, which is kind of cool, and then it shows like, I'm gonna say these are like ravens, and some dog-looking horse things, which I'm gonna assume has like orcs or maybe like the Witch Kings on it. Either way, it's got a lot going on. And here's another one. The other thing I kind of found a little off-putting, though, was then the fact of, like, all of these nice covers, and they went ahead and put, like, you know, the publisher stamp straight in the middle of these covers instead of, like, off to the side or on the back or something like that. I think The Return of the King is my favorite because it does show what I'm expecting is supposed to be like monsters and stuff, and obviously that's Mount Doom. There's like, you know, they got like the tabards and stuff. Anyway, I thought these were pretty cool. I've kind of been looking for a decent edition of these classic Lord of the Rings paperbacks, and now I found them. And it was kind of cool too because I think they were all like $1 a piece, or it was like all of them for $2 or something like that. Either way, it was a really great deal, and I'm happy that I found it. Next up, this one I did not get at a thrift shop. I ordered this. This is Kill River 3, which I just started. If you're familiar with the Kill River series, I have reviewed the first book. I plan on reviewing the second book. It is a slasher trilogy series set around a water park in at least the vibe I get is either like a small town or a very small suburban community. Oh, sorry for coughing there. It does take place in the 80s, so it does give you like this, you know, the classic, I guess like throwback slasher vibe that a lot of things are going over these days. Either way, I really liked it, so, you know, I of course grabbed the third book in the series, which I'm not going to give you guys any spoilers about other than, I guess I'll read the top part of the back. He's been waiting all summer for one last dark, bloody night at the water park. Ba-bum-bum-bum. If you've read the first two books, then obviously you know who he is and what is about to happen after the almost cliffhanger-ish ending of the second book. I will say that I've already started the third book, as you can see from the bookmark, and it is off to a really great start, and there's a lot of things that right off the bat I didn't see coming, and I am super excited to finish this book and then tell you guys all about it. Next up is Cooking Price-Wise, which I've kind of just been buying a lot of Vincent Price's cookbooks. As someone that used to work in the cooking industry and the restaurant industry for quite some time, as a cook and then as a sous chef, I obviously really love cooking. And it's really neat to know that so did Vincent Price. I would love to actually find the videos or like, you know, some reruns of the show that these cookbooks are based off of. Because, yeah, Vincent Price had a cooking show, which I think was also called Cooking Price-Wise. This isn't something you really have to track down. I do believe this is a Calla Publishing or something like that, Calla reprint. Or yeah, it's a Dover publication, so it's one of their like reprint lines. So you can find this fairly easily if you're like me and you want Vincent Price's cookbook. I think there's 2 that are fairly easy to find, and the others are not back in print yet, but I assume they will be eventually. So definitely keep an eye out for those if that's something you're interested in. Next up is a complete change of pace. I have Elmer Kelton's. I do that every time. I always butcher Elmer Kelton's name, even though I've read several of his books. He is a Western writer that I have enjoyed so far. I think he also wrote The Hanging Judge, which I read last year. And he's one of those Western authors that when I do come across his stuff at thrift stores and used bookstores, I tend to pick him up because, like Louis L'Amour, I really enjoy his Western writing. This is an omnibus edition of the Texas Rangers trilogy, which I have never heard of. It's a pretty thick book, but to be fair, it's also like pretty large print, or at least to me it's pretty large print on the inside. So this is definitely going to be one of my summer reads. I love reading Westerns at the beach for some reason. I think I've talked about that on this channel before. It was something I grew up doing. So for me, it's kind of like a nostalgia thing to when I take a beach trip or go to the beach over the summer, I always bring some sort of Western book. And it's usually a pretty clean Western book, such as like, you know, Elmer Kelton or Louis L'Amour. Sometimes like a William Johnstone. I'm kind of boring when it comes to my Westerns. Which is probably something I'll talk about in another video, because that's a whole rabbit hole I don't think you guys want me to dive down right now. So, next up, 2 Star Wars books, which I was pretty excited to find. One is Splinter of the Mind's Eye, novel by Alan Dean Foster. This is one of the ones I've been trying to track down because I learned very recently that Alan Dean Foster, when he wrote these, they were supposed to be like TV movies. That were going to take place in between the other films. I think he wrote 2 of these, if I'm not mistaken, that obviously didn't get made into movies, but they're still supposed to be pretty good books. Yeah, this one was, you know, $2, and I think this is a pretty good edition of the hardcover book. And other cool news, from my understanding, Alan Dean Foster has somewhat settled the dispute with Disney, and he is... at least as of now, supposedly getting paid. I don't know if he's going to get paid all his back stuff, but if you haven't followed that, there was a very large dispute between Alan Dean Foster, who has written a bunch of Star Wars tie-in novels throughout the years, and Disney, when they were still selling his works and not paying him back royalties. I'm sure if you Google it, you can find a lot more about it from people who explain it a lot better than I can. So... before I tell you guys something completely wrong or off base, I will show you the Carillion trilogy by Roger McBride Allen. This is one of my favorite Star Wars Legacy book trilogies. I haven't read it in a long time, but I'm excited to jump back into it. This and the Han Solo trilogy, like I said, are 3 of my favorites. These just dive into things that I feel like the movies themselves didn't dive into, or at least gives us more background into things that kind of get glossed over in a lot of the films. I really, really enjoyed the Legacy series that did surround, or at least the original Legacy series, I should say, that surrounded a lot of the original characters. Especially where Han Solo was concerned. Growing up, Han Solo was my favorite character, and a lot of his adventures, or like adventures he went on, felt like something that could have come right out of like a Dungeons and Dragons adventure, or even like I don't know, as a character he always felt, you know, he was the very roguish element. A lot of like, it reminded me a lot of like Drizzt and R.L. Salvatore without the swords, if that makes sense. His adventures were a lot darker, it seemed, than everyone else's adventures in the Legacy books. Don't know if you guys agree with that or disagree, but that's kind of my take on it. I am really excited to read this again. Once I do read through this again, I will probably do a review on it. But either way, it was really cool to pick it up for $2. Next up, I have Goblins by Vincent Courtney. One thing about this book that really excited me is it is a zebra edition. I have been trying to track down zebra horror books for quite some time, and I have had, well, how do I phrase this without cursing? I've had a lot of trouble trying to find them. They are harder to track down. I've seen some in the wild, but a lot of them don't have the covers, which, you know, they were kind of known for. They had these really cool kind of like glossy covers on them. I do believe Grady Hendrix goes over zebra books in some detail in the Paperbacks from Hell book. It's been a while since I read that too, so I don't want to say things out of left field, but I do know he talked about the Zebra publishing line when he did, when I saw him do the Paperbacks from Hell presentation that he did at a book festival in Charlottesville several years ago. I will read the back of this one. The fear is growing from the moment he saw the ancient castle rising out of the picturesque Scottish countryside. Filmmaker Dan Martin knew he'd found the ideal location for his vampire horror movie, and nothing could make him leave. Not the eerie legends of soul-stealing beast of the night, nor a bizarre series of freak accidents. Not even his pregnant wife's tragic miscarriage. The terror is born, except that now there is another fetus growing in Vicky's womb. But little Darian is not going to be a normal baby. The Martins' adopted 5-year-old son Marty will soon find that out. In fact, Marty will soon know exactly what his new brother is. ... Goblins. I don't know how he's going to be goblins plural, but I am interested to find out. Just like I am interested to find out what's going to happen in this super scary castle. I will review this book once I read it. Like I said, I'm very eager to read this. This is the first Zebra horror book that I've ever owned. I'm hoping to find more as things open back up and I can go into more used bookstores and more thrift shops to look for them. Next up, I've got the Sacrilege, I don't actually know how to pronounce that. I know it is like Latin numerals, or not numerals, but SPQR mystery. This is a mystery series that I really like. I've only read one of them, but they're by John Maddox Roberts, and they take place in ancient Rome, and have, at least to me, I always found that like a very fascinating era and a good era to set mysteries, especially when there was so much political intrigue and everything going on at that time. So, very excited to read this. I will read the back. So decrees Cassius Julius Caesar himself, Rome's Pontifex Maximus, guardian of religious procedure, but scandal rocks the imperial city when a sacred woman's right, presided over by Caesar's spouse Pompeia, is infiltrated by a corrupt patrician dressed in female garb. Decius Cassius Metellus the Younger, fledgling senator and experienced detector of crime, senses a connection between the sacrilege and 4 bizarre murders that follow. And with the aid of a notorious criminal, he will trail the bloody perpetrators from the lowest depths of the crime-ridden Suburra district to the highest echelons of the Roman elite, creating powerful enemies along the way who are determined to terminate both the investigation, ... and the investigator. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this. They aren't very long books, but I definitely think this is going to be fun to dive into. And if I go to the beach, which I'm hoping to do this year, I will definitely bring this one along. Next up are 2 books that I had never heard of before, but could not pass up the chance to buy them. These are Gary Gygax's Dangerous Journeys, which I had never heard of. I guess they were a line for a game called like Mythos, or a setting for Dungeons & Dragons called Mythos, I guess. And they take place in a, like, I guess Gary Gygax's version of ancient Egypt. Yeah, I don't even know how to dive into this. Yeah, he calls it Egypt with an A-E... Yeah, it's... anyway, there's a lot going on here. I'm excited to read this, though. I have read some of Gary Gygax's books before. I want to do a review on some of his other series that he wrote. But I will talk about these as I read them. Because I hadn't heard of them before I found them. They do have like pretty beautiful covers. I've also never heard of the Mythos game, so I don't really want to read the back of these just in case anything is too out of left field on these, because as we know from Dungeons and Dragons, some of the settings that came out by TSR did not always treat other cultures kindly. So I will read these and most likely review them depending on how I feel about them, I guess, when I finish them. Or I guess I should review them either way, but we'll see. Either way, I'm excited I got these just to see Gary Gygax's takes on this, and I do plan on trying to maybe track down one of the Mythos settings and just see what that was all about. Next up, I have Dark Walker on Moonshade, which I don't own. I own the other two books in the, I do believe it is called the Moonshade Trilogy by Douglas Niles. I guess it does not say the trilogy on there like the other two books do. Dark Walker on Moonshade was the book series, or I'm sorry, the Moonshade Trilogy was the book series that helped really get me into playing Dungeons and Dragons, especially 2nd edition in general. That up with a lot of R.A. Salvatore's books really just got me more into the heroic elements of the game. Especially this, which took place in, I think, a lesser known area of the Forgotten Realms. Will the balance of the goddess and the peace of the folk be destroyed by the sinister Khazgaroth? I don't know if I pronounced that right. Only Tristan Kendrick, troubled heir to the legacy of the High Kings, can rally the diverse people and creatures of the Isles of Moonshade to halt the spread of darkness. On the side of evil, a relentless army of giant furbolgs, dread blood riders, and preternatural incarnations of the beast. On the side of good, an uneasy alliance of halflings and dwarves, sister knights, bards and druids, and the powerful children of the goddess, the Leviathan, the unicorn, and the pack. I really like this trilogy. I will probably do a review of the entire trilogy, or at least the books in the trilogy in my series, because like I said, these are some of my favorite Dungeons and Dragons books, as I feel like they just have like the quintessential group, you know, the noble warrior, the thief, the druid. It just seemed like everything you'd want out of a fantasy book. But I will talk about that more later, as I have to show you my last two books. Next is Death Force, the Executioner. I'm still picking up random Mac Bullen books where I can. These are usually pretty fun, short reads. They're a lot of like action adventure if you're into that. Some of it's kind of cheesy and over the top. Think like Hawaii Five-0 or Magnum P.I., which are all things I like though, so I do enjoy these books. In the back says, armed and dangerous, while passing through the Colorado Rockies on some well-deserved R&R, Mac Bullen steps into the middle of a firefight and a sinister conspiracy of hate. A network of rogue lawmen turned paramilitary fanatics are set to proclaim their twisted rage and blood. Washington is the first target in their tour of death. Violence and sabotage. Bullen goes to war, grimly determined to deliver justice outside of the law. Nothing less than total annihilation will stop the right arm of God from pursuing their hellish agenda. The executioner is only too willing to oblige. Bum bum bum. Yeah, if you like things kind of like The Punisher or just over-the-top action adventure, you'll really like the Mac Bullen books. There are a bunch of them. I mean, this is number 216. I think there's like 300 or 400 and some books total. A lot of them were written under, you know, a lot of people wrote under the name of Don Pendleton. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even say him as the author. It says Don Pendleton, who was the original creator of the series. And I think he wrote 39 of the books before it kind of became like a house series, but don't quote me on that. There are a lot of other people who can steer you correctly on that, as this book, especially on like different Facebook groups and stuff, not this book, but this series in general, has a pretty large following, so I don't want to speak out of turn on that, but I enjoy these. This series in Death Merchant. Usually if I see these laying around, I will pick these up. And my favorite series so far, they came out during the pandemic and I buy immediately as they put them out. They do have another one that just dropped as I record this, which I plan on buying, which is book 11. But this is They Built a Gallows for You and Me by Cody Higgins, and it is part of the Splatter Western series that is being put out by Death Head Press with these just beautiful covers. If you haven't seen these, I think the cover artist, Justin Kuntz, has been doing stuff for other people now too. But if you haven't seen these covers, I highly recommend just going and browsing through them because it's just stunning work. This isn't the longest book in the series, but I am still excited to read that. All these books have just been phenomenal so far, and I'm really excited to just see what they're doing with the line as the year progresses, because they are, like I said, so far just steadily pumping out books, which for a voracious reader like me is always very exciting. And that is the entirety of this book haul. Like I said, it wasn't as long as the other. I didn't get a bunch of stuff, but I think I got some really cool stuff. And if you guys liked this video or saw anything in this that you want to talk about in the comments, I'm more than happy to oblige. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.